like it's revealed to me like he wants our time and he wants quality. And that's what
Mhm.
sourdough is. It takes time and it's quality and it's good,
Yes.
but it's worth it. It's worth
Yes.
time. It's worth the mistakes. Like you're gonna mess up. Like our walk with God, we're gonna mess up,
Yeah.
you know. But are you gonna learn from it and keep going? Or are you just
Yes.
gonna give up?
Right.
Welcome to The Home and the Maker, sharing advice and encouragement about all topics homemaking and homesteading, and honoring the maker in all of it. Join Megan from Shine.fm for today's conversation.
So, a topic that might come to mind right away when you mention homesteading, homemaking, or natural living is making sourdough. In my own experience with it, I've learned that sourdough is really complex and there's so much to learn and discover about it. And I'm so excited to have a guest on the podcast today to talk about sourdough, who Tabitha from episode 1 said was the perfect person to talk to about it. And introducing Kate. She's a wife and mom and follower of Jesus who also has experience with sourdough. So I'm so honored that you'd say yes to being on the podcast today. Thank you, Kate.
Yes, it is so fun to be here. Thank you for having me.
For sure. So, first of all, why sourdough?
Oh man, there's a lot of reasons. But especially for me and our family, it all roots from health issues
Mhm.
and being able to tolerate it.
Okay.
So, sourdough, because of the grains being broken down and fermented, our guts can digest it much better. And so, for me and my husband, we do great with it. We were gluten free for years, and then I finally took the plunge to try it. And here we are, and we have not gone back. It's been life changing. It's
That's
great.
awesome. So, what
Yeah.
kind of flour then? Are you still using like the typical like wheat flours then because it breaks down, or are you using a different kind of flour?
Yeah, that's a really good question. For our starter, I just use regular all-purpose flour, bread
Mhm.
flour, and I can tolerate regular wheat flour, like when I add it to my recipes on like a normal basis. But if I overdo it, I'll start to feel it, and
Mm.
migraines are my issue, so I get headaches, migraines. But I like to use a lot of ancient grains as well. So it's wheat, but you're getting like the original form of it, and
Yeah.
there's a lot less gluten index, so to speak. You can get into the science of it all, but there's less of it in there. And I do really well with that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's so
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
So, you said you just kind of took the dive and jumped into it. How did you learn? Google? Did someone teach you?
Yeah, it honestly was self-taught. I researched it for at least a year.
Wow.
Maybe more than that. But I just read articles, Instagram, all the things, and just kind of soaked it all in before I took the plunge in it all. I was pregnant, and then I had another newborn, and finally, when I felt like I could give it a go, I gave it a go. But I found this blog that it just made sense to me.
Mhm.
And it was a local girl. It was Simple as Gourmet is her blog. Her name's Hillary, and she made Simple as Gourmet. She lives to her name. Like it was great. She just made it in a way that didn't seem as intimidating. And
Mhm.
so I just followed all of her recommendations, her Instagram, her blog, and I just gave it a go. And she had a lot of good beginner recipes to build the confidence.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's how I started.
You researched it for a year and then started. How long did it take for you to finally feel like I've got a handle on this?
Well, maybe a few months.
Okay.
Um, a lot of trial and error. Like I remember my first loaf, it honestly wasn't that bad. I was like, oh. Um, but then, weather changes, there's so
Yes.
many variables with temperature. But I would say it took me a few months to get really confident in
Hmm.
it and try new things. But there was definitely a lot of mistakes. Just part of it. You're going to learn by making mistakes. It's like what you tell your kids. Like we learn by making mistakes, and
Yeah.
it applies for us. So it took a while to get an understanding on it, but I think because I did so much research on the back end, I
Hmm.
had a really good understanding of it. So when problems came or if there were fluctuations in anything, I had a decent grip on it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
When you maintain it, because people can use different processes to maintain it as far as putting it in the fridge or leaving it on the counter. How often are you working with it? And are you on the fridge or are you putting it on the counter?
Yeah, for our starter, because I bake everything for our family.
Okay.
I don't buy any store-bought bread products.
That's amazing.
Because it's the way, like it's either that, like it's either sourdough or disgusting gluten-free things that aren't really good for you either.
Yeah.
Like it's the laundry list of ingredients.
Mhm.
So just to give context, like I bake a lot. So I keep the starter on the counter and I feed it every day, every 24 hours.
Hmm.
And then if we have a busy weekend or a busy few days or we're going out of town, I seal it and put it in the fridge
Okay.
and it does just fine. When I started out, I fed my starter every 12 hours.
Okay.
That's what was recommended, and that's a lot of feeding, but it made me get into a really good routine and it keeps your starter healthy. And
Hmm.
so I always recommend doing that. And then once you get confident, you can do every 24. And then once your starter is strong and well maintained, you're good to go.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
that's what I started doing the 24-hour feeding. And then I thought, is this getting too liquidy? I don't know.
Yeah, it honestly depends on temperature. Like
Yes.
in the summer, you have to be very diligent with every 24 hours.
Okay.
You cannot push it in the summer because heat makes everything work faster.
Yeah.
So the warmer it is, the more activity that's going on. So it's not going to stay as active as long. Now in
Mhm.
the winter when it's colder, it's a little bit more flexible in terms of the 24 hours.
Yeah.
So it makes any sense because
No,
it's
yeah.
just every lower. So there's more grace there.
Right.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, with the temperature, you're probably very aware of how it's doing over the course of the temperature and the different fluctuations. But when it comes to the rising, you've done the starter, mixed the dough for your bread. When it's rising, do you have any special tips for keeping it at the right temperature to rise, or just kind of watching it throughout the day, waiting
Yeah.
for it to do that?
Yeah. And this is a lot of people's hang up. And this is where sourdough is not a black and white
Yes.
thing. It's one big gray area.
Yes.
And so it's all about learning the concept behind it all. And so when I teach people like the type A, just tell me exactly what to do.
That's me.
I'll follow it to a T. And I'm like, sorry guys, like what I tell you now, it's always going to be different based off of temperature. So the rule is like when you mix up your dough and you're waiting for it to rise for that bulk ferment, if it's colder in your house, it's just going to take longer.
Mhm.
But then if it's warmer in your house, like around 72 degrees, 75 degrees, like everything is just going to happen quicker.
Mhm.
So you can play around with that to your schedule in your day. Like, hey, I got this needs to go, this needs to rise faster. So if that's the case, then I recommend like put it in your oven with the light on.
Mhm.
Don't turn your oven on, but just put it in a non-drafty area.
Mhm.
And with that light, it's honestly pretty warm in that oven, and that'll speed things up. Or something as simple as just cover it in a towel, like a blanket,
Yeah.
and insulate it. That'll help speed things up. Um, there's all these fancy like dough mats out there and things you can do. I have a seedling mat from my brother-in-law who's like a
Oh.
gardener. And so if anyone gardens out there, like when you start your seeds, like early to spring, like right now,
Hmm.
probably they need to sit on this warm mat. And so you could just put it on something warm like that
Okay.
and it'll speed things up, or put it in your microwave. Like just a non-drafty area covered will do wonders. I have noticed if your bowl is in like a stainless steel bowl, they get colder. I don't know if
Okay.
sense. But like a glass bowl, I feel like things happen like naturally as they should. But if it's in like a stainless steel bowl, I don't know, they don't warm up very easily. It's very
Also,
temperature. So if your house is already cold and your
yeah,
bowl's freezing, then you're probably going to keep your dough a little bit cold. But
right. Stainless
yeah,
steel is also hard to clean, which brings me to this question. So, wrapping it in a towel, or some recipes say tea towels, I have had the dough stick to those towels and be virtually impossible to clean off. So, have you had experience with that and how to like get it
yes,
off my towels?
yes. So do you flour your tea towel before? Like sprinkle with a little bit of flour or no?
So this like the ones I'm thinking of would be like when I'm putting the towel over it for it to
Oh,
rise and then it just like
okay.
sticks. Or if I'm putting a tea towel over my starter and then I'm not wiping off the rim like I
Yeah.
should, but I don't know how to
If
get it
if
off.
if the dough is sticking to the towel, then your dough is probably over fermented or overproofed and it's
Mm,
sticky. Like
okay.
perfectly fermented dough should be like pillowy and it doesn't stick to your finger.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
it's probably sitting a little too long
Okay.
or or your dough is just really, really hydrated.
Hmm.
Um, but my first thought is it's probably just over fermented, or you could just skip the towel at all. I like to use handy dandy shower caps and I just put that over. You can get them at
Oh,
the dollar store, you can get them on Amazon. They're
yeah.
they're so convenient. Or you could cover if it's like bulk fermenting in the bowl, you
Hmm.
could just put a plate over it.
Okay.
You can avoid the sticky towel.
Yes. Okay, good.
If you're lining, like after you shape your dough and you're putting it in a banneton, and if you line it with a tea towel, I always recommend just sprinkle a little bit of flour. You could use regular flour or you
Hmm.
could use rice flour, and then
Okay.
it'll help from sticking.
Gotcha. Okay,
I don't
that's
know if that's
helpful.
okay.
So, when you are discarding, so basically, for those who aren't familiar with sourdough, if you're feeding it regularly, you have to discard some of it so you're not just accumulating all of this sourdough and it's multiplying and multiplying. So, you have to discard some. So, do you use that discard for anything, or are you basically working with that often enough that you don't need to discard?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think a lot of people get hung up on discard
Hmm.
in general. For those that aren't familiar, discard is basically inactive starter or unfed starter, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's not ready to bake with and use for a loaf of bread type recipe that needs a ton of rice. And so the method that I use, I don't discard. I don't
Oh,
throw away any of my starter or
okay.
put it in a separate jar. My method is just use up most of your starter when you're
Hmm.
baking, use it up, or if you have like make a recipe with it, um, or if you have like a full jar of starter and it's not active, it's discard at that point. You're like, what do I do? Okay, then make chocolate chip cookies, make muffins, make pancakes. So there's a lot of recipes out there where you can use inactive starter. Now, this isn't going to ferment
Hmm.
your recipe, the batter, the dough. So for those of you who are really gluten-free sensitive, I don't recommend this method, but it's a good way to use up your starter.
Yeah.
Because like I don't want to waste anything. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what can we do with this? There's so many ways you can use up that leftover starter. Like you could just pour it right in a cast iron and make pizza crust. There's so many ways. But I don't have a big jar of starter in my fridge.
Okay.
So I just try to use up most of my starter when I bake. So then when
Hmm.
I'm feeding my starter, there's only a little bit. And then I give that starter a big feeding.
Okay.
And then that keeps my starter healthy and active.
Gotcha. I
Yeah.
love
So
that.
the whole and this is how I teach people too, because I think people get really overwhelmed with the ratios.
Hmm.
of having to feed your starter a specific ratio after it's established. And I'm like, as long as you feed like a small amount of starter, a lot of flour, like it's gonna stay healthy.
Yeah.
If you have a full jar starter and you're only feeding it a little bit of flour, it's like giving a little bit of food to all of that yeast and it's not going to be happy.
Yeah.
So if you can give a lot of food to the yeast, it will feast off of those sugars and stay very happy and active for you. That's worked for me personally.
Hmm.
And I find it just the easiest. I don't get overwhelmed with the ratios and what do I discard and
Yeah.
the constant back and forth with all these jars. Yeah, so that's what works for me.
Yeah. No, that's great. I
Yeah.
have like 4 bowls in my fridge right now of discard because I keep thinking, oh, I'll use that for something. And then I forget about it. And then it's been too long. So to work from that perspective or mentality of just using it all up to just feed again, I think that's
Yes.
the much better and way less wasteful way of doing
Yeah.
it.
And then if you're not going to bake for a bit, just seal it tightly and put it in your fridge.
Hmm.
That's not going to hurt it.
Yeah.
And so instead of constantly feeding it to keep it active and then have all this discard and then you're overwhelmed with it all,
Yeah.
I'm like, just pause and put it in the fridge for a few days. It's not going to harm it.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be fine if it's healthy, and if you put it in your fridge for a while, it's going to be just fine.
Yeah.
So I teach that method. I do that method, and it seems to work great for a lot of people.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I need to do
yeah. So
that.
use it, or just put it in your fridge. Like,
Yes.
or just that's how you plan your schedule around. Like, this is my bake day. I'm going to bake out all these things, and then I'm just going to put it away for a bit.
Yeah.
Like whatever works for your lifestyle and your family's needs. So,
Yeah, that's good. So, your advice for someone starting a starter. Some, I feel like I read once online that it takes, or one method said like it's good to use after a week, but I've found that obviously the longer I fed it before using it, the more active it was. So, how long would you
yeah.
suggest for someone who's trying to start this from scratch?
Oh man. I mean, like you said, at least a week, maybe 2 weeks.
Hmm.
It's a baby starter,
Yeah.
so it's very fragile.
Hmm.
And so I think I would wait at least 2 weeks. And as long as you're feeding it and it's tripling, doubling in size, you should be good to go.
Yeah. How old is yours?
I honestly didn't start one from scratch.
Okay.
I know I got one from someone and it was a good starter. I attempted to make my own.
Uh-huh.
It did not go well, but looking back, I tried to do it in the winter when it was
Oh.
really cold and I didn't know any of the tips. I just left it on my freezing cold countertop. And I was using fridge water, which
Mm,
it's filtered, but I don't think it was the best. Like where
okay.
I live, I know the water, like our city water is not great. So I even think through like a fridge filter, it just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So looking back, it should have been warmer environment and really pristine water. Like go buy purified water, distilled water. I think that was a big problem.
Okay.
And yeah, it just wasn't happening. So if you're gonna make one from scratch, either do it in this summer is a great time to do it, or just you have to really cultivate those warm environments
Hmm.
and you have to be very precise and pristine. There's no playing games when you're doing a starter from scratch. Like
Yeah.
there's no room for error. It's very meticulous.
Okay.
People do it all the time, but you just have to set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, being precise, how, as far as now that you have an established starter and you're feeding it regularly, do you
Mhm.
believe that a friend told me having a scale is a game changer? Do you think the same? Are you more basically because it's a healthy starter, you can kind of eyeball things, but what's kind of your mentality with it?
I am team scale
Okay.
all the way. For a lot of reasons. It's just accurate.
Hmm.
It's precise. You're going to have better outcomes. There's less room for error. So when you do make a recipe, it's just consistent. Your measurements are, you know what you measured.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, did I measure it? Was that cup of flour too heavy? Did I not,
Right.
Um, and honestly, a scale is easier. It's simple. There's less dishes.
Yeah.
You just dump and then you zero it out and start over on your next ingredient. And it's great. No, so I'm
Mhm.
team scale for precision, less dishes, and it's a time saver.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's just an easy way to keep things accurate and it'll
For
make your
sure.
life a lot easier. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, I mean, you kind of answered this already as far as you've made everything. It's been very, very helpful in terms of your health. And I would assume it's changed your perception of store-bought everything.
Yes.
Just like
Yes, it has
100%.
for sure. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Like I've been on a health journey for quite a long time. And so just aware of ingredients in our food and how much
Mhm.
is added. And so it's once I was able to cut out like the bread and have simple, less wholesome ingredients.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's a game changer. Like once you start reading the labels in the stores,
Yep.
and it's a long list. And yeah, once I started reading and cutting out all those things and just learning what's in my food, how to cook more food,
Mhm.
shop simply, use whole ingredients, I felt so much better. Now, there
Yeah.
was a lot that went to my story. I needed a lot more help, but it really did make a difference in clarity, energy, migraines, like the list can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
So I'm all about like know what you're putting in your body, know where it comes from. And our like God gives us one body while we're here. It's a temple of the Holy Spirit. And like I think what we put into it truly does matter. Like
Mhm.
if I'm not eating well, I am more susceptible to being crabby and irritable towards my kids, my husband. I'm tired. Like I don't think clearly. And I think if we just simplify what we eat and eat the way that God intended us to, it can be a game changer all around in terms of our health, like including your spiritual walk. Like I can testify to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, know what's in your food and know where it comes from. And I love that when you go that route, you start knowing like your local farmer, your local butcher, you're just supporting your local community, which we have gotten away from in our society in general.
Yes. Yeah.
Like just know who's in your corner. And you
Yeah.
just have a smaller, everything just becomes smaller, which
Mhm.
is good.
That's so great. I love that. Now, you've kind of talked about it, but and it's kind of a funny question, but God shows up and teaches us things in everything. So, as you've worked with sourdough, has God revealed himself to you, or what have you learned about God through the process of making sourdough, or like you said, with like eating more simply?
Yeah. Oh man. Sourdough has taught me so much. It's taught me to slow down.
Mm.
It's taught me to be okay with failing.
Oh, that's a
Like,
hard one.
yeah, to be okay with it. And and also like just it takes more time, but it also tastes better. And I think that's our relationship with God too. Like
Mm.
he wants our time, but he also wants like the quality of the relationship.
Yeah.
Is there depth? Was there work put into it?
Mm.
I don't know if that makes any
That
sense.
does.
And there's something about too when you're slowing down, mixing up your dough, doing stretch and folds. It's therapeutic, like using your hands.
Hmm.
It's something again we've lost as a culture of not using our hands. Like we're not gardening as much. We don't fix things by ourselves as much. We're not cooking. And there's something that happens when you just slow down and use your hands
Hmm.
and you're away from technology, you're
Yeah.
away from it all, and you just have a moment. And it sounds silly. It might be a minute, but in the chaos,
Hmm.
it's been therapy for me in times. Like I specifically remember a time. I was pregnant with our third child, and I was so sick. And I've been historically sick with all my kids, but this one was like very, very hard. I had hyperemesis. I could barely get out of bed during the day. My husband was carrying a big load. And so I couldn't even make any bread. And my husband actually started doing it because he missed it. He's like, what do I have to do so we can have fresh bread? But I got away from it for so long. And then at 17 weeks, I found out I miscarried. And so that whole healing process after I had to deliver our baby like that, I remember the first time I mixed up a loaf of bread, and it was after my other two kids were in bed. I could cry thinking about it. Like God like met me there. It was just like, I missed this. God's like, I'm with you. And it's just those moments where you slow down. He does speak to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, slowing down is a big part of it, and being home more. You're like, okay, if this is bread day, or if I have orders I'm doing, or a class, or okay, we're just gonna be home. We have to be home today, and it makes you slow down. And I think God wants us to slow down.
Yeah.
And we need to slow down. And especially in this culture of the hustle and bustle, and you have to do more, we can lose the intimacy with God and like hearing him. And so, yeah, bread has been like it's been it has really impacted my walk. Like when you think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that so much. It seems so simple, but how wonderful and gracious God is to meet us in those small things like making bread.
Like making bread. And it's just because you just are taking a step away from the busyness and the chaos of life. It might be around you, but you're just going to take a moment and breathe.
Yeah.
And it's just how we're supposed to do it. But yeah, like it's revealed to me, like he wants our time and he wants quality. And that's what sourdough is. It takes time and it's quality and it's good, but it's worth it. It's worth time. It's worth the mistakes. Like you're going to mess up, like our walk with God, we're going to mess up, but are you going to learn from it and keep going? Or are you just going to give up?
Right.
And so there's a lot of parallels. There's a lot of parallels. Yeah.
Yes. So good. Thank you so much, Kate, for your wisdom, for sharing, for the advice and tips. I need to try some of those myself.
Yeah. You can text me anytime.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Home and the Maker podcast. And for other podcasts from Shine.fm, visit the Shine.fm podcast channel.